Good to see you all. We're going to leave the door open because we want to get the live stream going. When you have multiple people, hello, wave to Paul, waiting from all over the world, we can't leave them waiting. So just know in all the future events as well, you want to be on time because we're going to start on time. And how many people are excited? Tom Paladino's here tonight. Stand up. Yeah. You know what? I am so happy that Tom and I have teamed up together, and we're going to tell you the truth of why we've teamed up so you'll have the record straight and you can take care of your health, your wealth, your well-being, because life is about being exciting and living. And who here has never been sick? Great! Who here was born with something? Oh, just me. Okay, I'll put my hand up. Who here has had to go through challenges with your health? Or absolutely, yeah, not fun, is it? You notice when your health goes sideways. We're in a world that who knows we're heading also into a crisis in our hospitals and things like that, right? Who has also heard that you can heal your entire body through energy work? Most of you know that, right? All right, this is a big one because people say to me, Tracy, I've been doing a lot of this energy work, but I'm not fully getting the results. So they say, how did you restore and repair your own body from birth? This is why you're going to be so excited to hear what Tom has, because you get to do a little bit more the lazy way than I had to. This is what's so brilliant. Because with his Scalar Light, it is energy. And you're going to learn all about this tonight. And you know I'm very, very picky, but when I had to do my work, I had to be dedicated. This is a way of living. This is a way of embracing what's happening in your life. You have to be responsible. You might have to change your diet. You might have to change your environment. How many people changed their environment? Oh, their health got better. It happened to me. Huge. I was born with a lot of things. I'm not going to bore all our people online. You can go onto the website, my website, if you want to see that. But as Tom is working through pathogens and I'm going to explain to you how his scalar energy works, there's another component. You have to be active in your space. You've probably heard that also when you have illnesses that show up, it's a frequency in the body. It is a frequency, which is usually an emotional, physical, mental, spiritual issue. You need to know what it is. And I'm going to tell you why, because Tom's going to talk tonight about the herpes virus a little bit. I'm sure you're going to bring that up with the pathogen cleanse. So that's a virus that is obviously jumping all over the place. If for some reason that virus goes out of your body, you're always working with your medical people, all of a sudden it goes out of your body. But you haven't cleaned the frequency behind it. Why did you get it? Now everybody knows all that. It's now shame, guilt, what I do, even though most people that I see that have that pop up in their body, they didn't do anything. Usually somebody brought it home. So what happens is there's all these energies that come through. If you don't clean that, the frequency is still there. So you can go out and reinfect. And now you got to be getting Tom to constantly hit you. But he could hit you all day long. But if you haven't cleaned it, you keep reinfecting, you might go back and say, is that not working? When you are working in energy, I always say you have to have a lot of faith. You have to trust, know, and believe without a doubt that you are willing to make the changes, being positive, being surrounded with people that get you and understand you. And a lot of you that understand our TLC community, that's why we paired up with Tom, because he's able. I wish 16 years ago, I didn't have to spend as much time understanding how to clear the pathogens out energetically, because it takes a long time. You need to be diligent. And when you're diligent and you never give up, you're going to get all of those results you're looking for. Everybody's body's different, so how you receive something. Now, I love the medical community for a reason. People say, what? You lived in it for 32 years, and I haven't been in it for 33. No, I'm just kidding. But here's the thing. What do I use them for? Because when I actually started, they said there was nothing else they could do for me but manage, so I did everything. Then I learned I could go back and say, could we test this? Could we look at this again? We worked together. And they'd say, you don't have that anymore. That's weird. How many of you had that happen? Yeah, I know. When it happens, it's a miracle because you took the work to do it. but it's to be very tenacious. And I thank God for all of you watching online, all of you here, to have the strength, to have the space to look inside and say, wow. So it's integrative. You work together and say, yeah, that's not there. Great. And they go, what? That's not possible. And you're like, thank you very much. Have a great day. Going to move on. Because when you have your health, you all know everything in life is better. When you're sick, you get a pass, right? So everybody in here, I want to clear for you people in mind. If you're sick, you don't need to be sick. It's okay. You'll still make your money. You'll still have a great time. A lot of people like to be sick because you get out of work, you get out of school, right? People give you sympathy, all good. But it's not fun. So let's start to remove the energy and start to really get you to understand that when you literally start looking at your life differently and you have programs like Scalar running in the background, really helping you. I don't know if anybody's been on the endorphin. Has anybody here on that one? Anybody else feel like they've always had 12 pots of coffee? I do. You know what? People that know me and even my staff, my teams, and I told this to Tom the other day, I can pump out so much stuff. I get so many downloads from God constantly. And they're like, how do you do that? What happens? I always got a lot, but I'll tell you, since running the endorphin, bing, all the time, it's constantly. I keep notebooks because I can't keep up with the messages that are coming. And people that are in the miraculous realm, you're like, man, we're changing again. We're changing again. You see me every day, so we're changing again. But this is what you really need to understand is feel what you feel, follow what your body's telling you, and understand. And I'm going to say this because I know anything is possible if you're really dedicated. But you have to take ownership. You have to really look at your life. Because people, places, and things will always try to attack you. And I say people kill people all the time. But if you can look at that, watch how much. That's why Tom and I are here. Because he can let these programs run for you. And I teach you how to get rid of those frequencies so they don't have to come back. And don't hang around people that say, that's crazy, that's nonsense. Because most people, even people, we sold out our venue, right? And now we're looking, where are some of these people? They get scared because it's new information. I want to strengthen each and every one of you. You've got to be so tenacious to say, I want to learn new information. I want to look outside the box. I want to take things that I never thought possible. Because if you want to sit there, what did Gavin tell me today? The average person watches 5 hours of TV a day? Yeah. Take that 5 hours and invest it in yourself and your health and your community and get back and watch how much your body will start to change. But like I said, I wish 16 years ago I could let something run in the background. Because the other thing is when you start to learn preventative, this is what I love about what you do, Tom, is when there's preventative stuff running all the time in the background, then you don't always have to be going, oh my gosh, what do I have to clean? What do I have to clean? You can focus on what that emotional space is. So they go hand in hand. You got to start moving the frequencies out. That's the most important thing. So are you guys ready to learn how you can take more charge? You got to be all saying, yeah, like you guys all fall asleep. You're like, I'm going to go and have a sleep. I'm going to just got to rest here. Because you're going to see Tom again. He's going to come back. And this is your time to not only understand, but to ask questions. And I'll be shifting the group as he's talking. So you're going to get a nice little energy clearing. So as he's talking, focus on what are even some things you want to release and let go. I don't need to have that conversation with you for people who know me, the way I touch you, my hands, my voice, the way it works. We don't need to do that. So let's enjoy what he has to share. Get your questions ready. And really, if anything, say to yourself right now, I'm making a promise to myself to be dedicated, to be committed, and really put myself first and make the change. Because even Scalar, people can find good things, bad things about everything we do because they're afraid of what they don't understand. And they're afraid of what they don't understand. It's outside the box. But I'm going to tell you, if I didn't go outside the box, I would be dead today. So you got to make choices. Go be crazy and go outside the box, or maybe check out. But you got to decide that, and only you can decide that. So make that promise. You're going to put yourself first. You're going to be willing to look at something different. You're going to be willing to embrace something different. See how you feel. Check it all out. Keep doing with your medical people everything you need to do. It's called integrative for a reason. But I want to hear, and Tom wants to hear from you guys over the next few months, your testimony when you come back, like little Alex, who doesn't need a colon bag anymore. You can stand up, Alex. Yeah, this little one right here. And I'm going to use this because people don't know her story. She had, we're just going to say, a mishap in the operating room and told she needed a colon bag. How old were you when that happened?
13.
13. Imagine telling your 13-year-old. So we worked on the emotional stuff, right, Mommy? Very hard. And I said to her, you need to go. So the E. coli was seeping into the reproductive. I said, you need to call this guy. Go call that 6'7" guy. Go see what he's doing. We got to get the pathogens. We got to hit your body. Because nor her or Daddy and Mommy right here, they didn't want to see their child live like that. She's a testimonial. She doesn't need a bag. She's prepared. But I'm going to tell you, she did the emotional work, and I think she's been on Scalar for, what, a year? For about a year? About that? Yeah, a year. So people listening online, like, when you are giving and hearing testimonials, they have energy and they have power. And what you should be sitting here doing is saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes because I'm going to be that testimonial. If a 13-year-old can take her life into her own hands and say, I will do whatever it takes, and it wasn't fun, right? No. No, it wasn't fun. When she started the pathogen cleanse, I'm going to tell you, she slept. Her mom's like, why is she so tired? I think she called Tom a couple of times and said, it's normal. Her body's letting go. Her body's repairing. But this is what happens. She'd sleep 13 hours. 13 hours. So if a 13-year-old can take back her health, she's a beautiful opera singer going to university, living her dreams. One day you'll hear her sing here. But if she can do this, there is not one person in here that can't do it. If I can restore my body, you can do it too. You have to believe it, trust it, and know it. That's an amen moment. I'm sorry, it just is. So you can all say that, because to me, that is a round of applause for her and for Tom. Like, huge. Huge. We love you. Poor Alex, she always gets pulled up because she's a great testimony of the spirit and the work. So we won't let you. You don't want to hear me anymore, but you can always find out what we're doing and how we're helping. But let's bring Tom on. Learn what you can learn a little bit more. Keep your expansion open. Have a bunch of fun. Ask the questions. And all day, just remember, you can shift anything. Just believe it. Okay? You ready? All right, Tom, you're up.
Welcome. Let's give a hand to Tracy, Julie, and the entire staff. This doesn't happen by magic. It's effort. And I want to thank you, Tracy, for going out and reaching the community and helping people to become proactive in their lives. This is what we need. We need more people like Tracy. So God bless you in your effort. Thank you. Okay. Now, before we get going, we have a guest star here tonight. We have the smartest IT director in all of Canada. This is Gavin. He works with us. Gavin is our IT director. And thank you for all your work and his service. Let's give him a hand. Okay, I'm not going to be long-winded tonight. We will speak for 30 minutes. After I speak, let's have a question and answer. Just raise your hand. I want to engage you tonight. I want you to see the potential here. We're working with an emerging science, Scalar Energy, Scalar Light. This science, Scalar Energy, is going to transform, change the world. Scalar Energy will eclipse in importance that of the computer, that of electricity. The future is ours. Once you understand, once the world can inculcate what Scalar Light can do, it's going to change everything. This technology will make obsolete much of the existing technology today. It's a new form of energy, so to speak, an emerging science that once we apply this energy, we can change our lives immeasurably. So my goal as a humanitarian is to make Scalar Energy, Scalar Light available to everybody. It's a game changer. I want to engage you. I want to engage the community of Toronto. You will see how simple and easy this is. And then I simply ask you, go home and tell your friends. It's that simple. Welcome. My name's Tom Paladino. I live in Bradenton, Florida, which is just south of Tampa. I want to form an alliance, and we have with Tracy and her team. I plan to travel to Toronto on a frequent basis so I can present my work and work hand in hand with Tracy as a body whisperer. We are working with Scalar Light, Scalar Energy once again. It's fundamental. It's sunlight or starlight. Whether you realize it or not, all of you are Scalar Light experts. Everybody's worked with sunlight or starlight. Scalar light is around everywhere. It pervades the universe. We simply don't realize that this energy is all-encompassing. It provides the instructions, the intelligence for everything. Scalar energy is a fundament that we are just starting to recognize. What do I mean? There's two energies. We have electromagnetic energy, electricity, and magnetism. But there's another energy, scalar light. Some people call that chi or prana. That's what we're working with, the life force energy. And it's far superior to that of electricity. I have developed, with the help of engineers, scalar light instruments that control scalar energy, which is a form of sunlight or starlight. And I'm going to show you some of the benefits that we can recognize from scalar light in operation, scalar light as a work function. We can do so many things with scalar energy. We'll just concentrate tonight on health. Scalar light allows us to create molecules, such as vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, inside the body to actually assemble micronutrients. We can also take scalar light and release molecular bonds of viruses, bacteria, fungi. So we can create what is advantageous, and we can break apart, fragment, destroy pathogens, parasites. Now we do all of this by way of these instruments, these scalar light instruments, and we work with people remotely. Everything I do is by way of a photograph. So people from around the world will submit their photograph to me, and you'll see this by the demonstration on the slides, the PowerPoint. People will submit photographs to me from around the world, and I can access them with a scalar light instrument. So the instrument works like a satellite. So consider what I'm saying. A scalar light instrument can find you by way of your photograph and send you healing energy by way of your photograph. From my laboratory in Florida, I receive photographs from around the world, from all the continents. And we're able to assemble micronutrients inside the body by way of a person's photograph. Or we're able to break apart viruses in somebody's body, all by virtue of the fact that they submitted their photograph. So what does this mean for the people of Toronto? That we can assemble, we can create micronutrients inside your body to improve your health. We can also break apart, we can also fragment the pathogens and parasites inside your body. You don't have to leave your home. This is inexpensive. This is effective. This is going to be a global healing ministry once people understand what we can do with this energy. It's so versatile. So let's begin. Scalar light. Scalar light originates from the sun and the stars. Before I get into it, that's my lovely wife, Nita. She's probably listening on live stream. I want to say, hi, Nita. I love my wife. Thank you for allowing me to come to Toronto. Okay. She has to answer all the emails in my absence. My two stepkids, Brianna and Kyle. And, freezing up. I'm a granddad. That is Berkeley. That's 4-month-old Berkeley. Berkeley Sophia, that's my granddaughter. So I live a normal home life. That's my dog. That's Maverick. He's 190 pounds. He's my Saint Bernard. And freezing up again. That's me clowning around with my dog. Again, I live in Bradenton, Florida. I have a great family life. I love my wife. And I love what I do, which is Scalar Light research. I couldn't ask for a better life. Okay, let's move on. What can Scalar Light do? How can we help? We can help people with disorders such as chronic fatigue, sleep disorders, arthritis. How can we help people with arthritis? Scalar Light allows us to break apart the bacteria in the body. If we can break apart the bacteria in your body, the joint stiffness that you have, the inflammation will subside, will assuage. Why? Because we can eradicate many of the bacteria, parasites, fungi, viruses that are responsible for inflammation in the body. When I send a Scalar Light signal into the body, that's instructions. This energy will have the power to instruct a microbe, a microorganism to break apart. Our current state is the ability to eradicate, to break apart over 400,000 species of germs. So the current instrumentation and our current level of expertise is we can destroy, we can break apart 400,000 species of viruses, bacteria, fungi, etc., protozoan. Many diseases are caused by those microbes, by those microorganisms. So by way of a photograph, I can access people around the world, send energy into their body, and we can break apart potentially 400,000 species of pathogens and parasites. Now extrapolate and consider what that means to the world. This is inexpensive medicine. And we can access anybody in the world by way of their photograph. The spiral notebooks that you have test results. They're known as polymerase chain reaction tests, PCR tests, from people around the world, from clinics around the world, that show, that demonstrate we have been able to destroy, to disassemble the herpes virus. We're able to disassemble the causative agent of Lyme disease, Borrelia burgdorferi. So this is incredible news. This is going to serve to transform the way we look at medicine. A simple, painless method to break apart a microbe, a microorganism, a germ. Okay. How do we do this? We do this with Scalar Light instruments. And these instruments I've created with the help of an engineering team. And the key component is to be able to harness sunlight. Scalar energy originates from the sun and the stars. So we're able to capture sunlight and then broadcast that into the human body. It's not electricity. Some people call scalar prana, chi, mana, life force energy, 0-point energy. That's what we're working with. So these are unique instruments that can broadcast sunlight, which is again chi, prana, life force energy, into the body. And that energy has the work function to either assemble a molecule or break apart a molecule. So consider what I'm saying. Scalar energy, scalar light allows us to have mastery over molecular forms. We can either assemble a molecule that's beneficial or break apart a molecule that's harmful or considered to be a pollutant. We have control now over the physical universe. And this is made possible because scalar energy gives us consummate control over molecular forms. So what am I saying? With scalar light, we have consummate control over viruses. We have consummate control over parasites, protozoan. We have consummate control over bacteria. So if we can control a microorganism and fragment it, break it apart, it no longer exists. Imagine what that means for mankind. Okay, some incidences of scalar. Any lightning bolt always initiates its scalar. I promise you, all of you are experts at scalar energy. Perhaps you don't realize that. Anytime you see a lightning strike, any lightning bolt initiates its scalar energy, and then it will degrade into electricity and magnetism. There was a great inventor, Nikola Tesla, who was able to create scalar energy instruments and create lightning bolts, sometimes 40, 50-foot-long lightning bolts. Well, what does that mean? If we can use scalar energy in the future, we can create lightning, then we can master that energy and control it. We have an infinite supply of energy. So Tesla, the great inventor, did that. With scalar energy, he could create lightning bolts, and he did that in his laboratory in Colorado Springs. When I'm working with my instruments in Florida, if there's an electrical storm, if there's a thunderstorm in the area, sometimes my instruments will start to spark. I'll experience small lightning bolts on my instruments. My instrument becomes alive and then starts absorbing the scalar energy from the local, if you will, the local thunderstorm. So my instrument will interact with a thunderstorm. What does that mean? That means we can access the energy from the atmosphere. This is free energy. Well, we'll get to that later. But that's the promise of scalar energy. Why? Because the sun and the stars produce this energy all the time. And as such, we have an infinite supply of energy. So scalar energy someday will be used to power the world, to provide energy for the world. It's free energy. It's from the sun and the stars. This is my vision. But today we'll just stick to health. Okay. When I am working with a scalar energy instrument, we have what is known as a chakra balancing. Scalar energy, scalar light, has a download into the 7 chakras, into our brain waves. And many people will say that a scalar light session will serve to balance those 7 chakras, the meridians. That scalar light will serve to reverse their depression. That scalar light will serve to change their thinking or increase their creativity. Now, mind you, I do all of this remotely. How can I accomplish that? How is it that scalar light is a download of energy into our 7 chakras? Because our chakras are composed of scalar energy. And a scalar energy instrument will have an immediate download into our 7 chakras. Scalar light is the interface with our 7 chakras, with our brain waves. So what we see with many people, that scalar light, a session of scalar light, will serve to improve their disposition. Some people have even told us that it has changed, or at least improved, their anxiety or their depression. Now, all of this is done, again, by way of a scalar light instrument, which is not electrical in character. So I have always thought that scalar energy, once we really understand the benefits of scalar light, it will be the doorway to sound mental health in the future. This is clean, pure energy from the stars, and we don't have to take pills, pharmaceutical products, so that light will correct our thinking. That scalar light will be able to balance our 7 chakras, our meridians. This is the alternative. This is the promise of scalar energy. We've seen this with so many people. They've said that scalar light has improved their disposition. I want you to take a close look. This is a scalar wave. It's photographed in time-lapse photography. It's as if 2 corkscrews are intertwined. Take a good look at that. It's beautiful. That's a scalar wave. It's like 2 corkscrews side by side. And then compare that to DNA on the left. Do you see the congruence? Ratio and proportion are identical. So many have theorized, and I agree with them, that scalar energy, the life force energy, is responsible for DNA. Now, if that's true, that a scalar wave will produce DNA, that means in the future, if we can control and harness a scalar wave, we should be able to correct genetic dysfunction. Very good. Norm gets it. Scalar energy is a download that not only creates DNA, but can repair DNA. Do you see where we're going with this? It's a versatile tool. It's sunlight, it's starlight. And it's very quintessence. And when you have that energy, you can control matter, including DNA. That's the promise. So someday we will use scalar light instruments to correct genetic dysfunction and to correct cancer, to correct a cancer cell. What's cancer? It's either an addition, deletion, or substitution of a base pair. If we can correct those base pairs, then you can correct cancer. That's the promise. And the tool is scalar energy, scalar light. Okay, when I'm in my laboratory, I notice that there's so many phenomena that are atypical. Working with my laboratory, anytime I hold fluorescent tubes close to a Tesla coil, I can illuminate those fluorescent tubes. I'm holding in my hand tubes. They're not plugged into anything. This immediate environment in my laboratory is filled with scalar energy. In my hand, I'm holding fluorescent tubes that are still in the plastic packaging. So the immediate environment is filled with so much energy, fluorescent tubes illuminate. Now consider that's the identical energy that I use when I perform a chakra balancing. So the energy found in these fluorescent tubes, that energy that's so strong that can illuminate a fluorescent tube is the same energy that's downloading into your 7 chakras and correcting not only your 7 chakras, but your brain waves. It's informational energy. It's instructive energy. And the second point I want to make is this is the first attempt at free energy that I have. If I can illuminate light bulbs locally, then eventually I can illuminate light bulbs at a distance. Scalar energy someday will end our energy crisis. This is the beginning of the experimentation. Eventually, we will be able to illuminate objects at a distance. But that's another change. These are some of the instruments. These various instruments will work with endorphins and neurotransmitters. We can assemble endorphins and neurotransmitters in the body. One of these instruments works with natural foods. We can actually assemble the phytochemicals found in food, natural foods such as herbs, vegetables, fruits, grains. We can actually assemble those natural chemicals inside the body. This is one of the instruments close up. Very powerful instruments. A vacuum tube, a capacitor. All of this works to create that double helix, that scalar energy waveform. And that's the key, to be able to control that dimension, a scalar energy waveform, allowing us to enter into that dimension and then send energy by way of these instruments to anybody in the world by way of a photograph. So this is some of the science behind the laboratory. Okay, you have in your binders various photographs. I want to address them one by one. Take a good look at these photographs. The very top row, you see a woman whose skin is disfigured by way of MRSA. Staphylococcus aureus is no longer able to be combated by antibiotics. The methicillin antibiotic was not effective. MRSA is methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. In other words, it's this bacterium, Staphylococcus aureus, that causes that skin infection, and the antibiotics were no longer effective. A woman from Norway sent me her photographs. Again, all I need is a photograph of skin, a photograph of a person, their skin. And she told me her story. She had MRSA, that the antibiotics were no longer effective. The antibiotics were failing. The hospital was not able to eradicate the skin infection, the bacterial infection. So she submitted her photographs to me, and she took this photograph in July. After I worked with her, after I provided the sessions, you can see the before and after photographs. She has no more MRSA. Now, all she had to do was submit a photograph. She lives in Norway, I live in Florida. And by sending that instructive energy into her body, we were able to break apart Staphylococcus aureus, as well as other bacteria and fungi that was infecting her. I want you to take these spiral-bound notebooks home. Look at the dramatic difference, all by way of a photograph. We work with many people with MRSA or skin infection, and all they have to do is submit a photograph to us. And in so doing, we're able to break apart those germs that are causing that skin irritation or that rash or those bacteria or those viruses that are infecting their body, causing chronic disease. So that's an indication what we can do with Scalar. That we can work with people around the world. This woman lives in Norway, and ever since I treated her, she's never had a problem. No more MRSA. How does this work? In practice, I take photographs, microphotographs of germs, pathogens. This is a magnified photograph of the herpes virus. I actually place that photograph inside the instrument. So everything is done by way of photographic recognition. So once you place a photograph of a microbe in the instrument will look at the character, will look at the molecular character of that microbe. And then deciphering, understanding that molecular geometry, that molecular structure of the herpes virus, the instrument is instructed then to break down those molecular bonds. So again, by placing a photograph, a magnified photograph of the herpes virus inside the instrument looks, scans, interprets that photograph, and then is able to break apart the herpes virus inside the human body. So we work with people around the world by way of their photograph, and I am able to instruct my instrument to break apart the herpes virus. We have test results, we have diagnostic test results from around the world that prove that we're able to break apart the herpes virus. The spiral-bound notebooks that you have many test results. I'm going to ask you, please take those test results home and show them to people. Here's an example. This woman had herpes, and after she submitted her photograph, we provided a session. Subsequent to the session, she had a polymerase chain reaction test. And the test result came back negative, no viral load. So we highly recommend that people, if they want to prove that this is efficacious and that this indeed can eradicate a microbe, for people to have a follow-up diagnostic test. This woman went to the extent and had a PCR test, a polymerase chain reaction test. Some people call that a DNA test. And the test result came back negative, no viral load. Ever since I've worked with her, she's not had any symptoms. So what I'm introducing to Toronto tonight is the easy way to break apart, the easy way to fragment the herpes virus. Likewise, I've never met this woman. She simply submitted a photograph to me. We work with people remotely by way of their photograph. We have hundreds of diagnostic tests that prove that Scalar is able to fragment, to destroy viruses, bacteria, and fungi. Process what I'm saying. Consider the ramifications here. It's the simple way to address thousands of diseases, pathogenic disease. Do we have any questions so far? Yes. She's asking about the PCR test. Is there ever a false positive or false negative? That's always possible. No test is perfect. So we always have to leave the door open as to is it a true reading or is it a false positive or a false negative? I would say that the PCR test is probably the most accurate test that we have available. It's known as a polymerase chain reaction test. It looks for some type of genomic copy of a virus or a bacterium. If there is still some type of small genomic copy of a virus or a bacterium, you're considered to still be infected. The medical community will say not detected if they cannot find any viral load. And in this case, with herpes, there was no viral load. So any test, again, is subject to interpretation. What I would like to underscore is the fact that we've worked with people around the world and these clinics that have provided these diagnostic test results from around the world. All of these test results from clinics around the world have come back negative, no viral load. So what we have is really a body of evidence now from people around the world who were once infected with the herpes virus who are no longer infected. A real cross-section of people around the world from different nationalities, young and old, regardless of their medical background. The test results come back negative. No viral load for herpes. It's quite promising. Yes. Yeah. Right. Sure. Sure. Right. Right. He's asking, how can the instrument distinguish and find a person? It's much like a cell phone. If you call somebody up on your cell phone, you can distinguish that person's cell phone. It's a specific telephone number or signal. And you can pinpoint a person by way of their cell phone. Well, that's how scalar light works. Scalar light is very specific. And if a satellite can find a cell phone or a satellite can find a GPS unit, then scalar works like a satellite and can find a person or an animal by way of their photograph. It's unique. Yes, correct. So when a person submits their photograph, it's more or less like their photographic DNA or their photographic fingerprint, so to speak. So I can distinguish anybody in the world by way of their photograph. So the people of Toronto, if they were to submit their photograph to me, no matter where they are, they could be in a train or in a plane, Scalar would still find them and provide that connection. Now, what does that call to mind? There's a concept called quantum entanglement, in which everything in the universe is connected. So if I'm working with a dimension that can connect everybody, it has to be quantum entanglement. Some people call that the mind of God. Some people call that quantum entanglement, the Akashic record. So what I'm saying is scalar light is a different dimension in which everything pre-exists. Everything is a connected entity. Everything is pre-connected. You might want to call it the matrix or the mind of God. That's what I am accessing. I am accessing a dimension in which all physical matter is interconnected. There is no distance between point A and point B. Now, when I'm working with the instrument, it doesn't matter if I'm working with one person or a million people. The instrument can easily send out energy to a million people at simultaneously. So imagine what I'm getting at. Consider this, okay? We could work with everybody in Toronto. Toronto has 3 million people approximately. In one session, I could provide energy, healing energy, to everybody in Toronto. If I had 3 million photographs from everybody in Toronto, in 1 hour I could provide a session and we could have a pathogenic cleansing from head to toe of everybody in Toronto. Yes. Sure. She's asking about the age of the photo. It doesn't matter because a photograph is your light signature, and you have that light signature throughout your life. So whether the photograph is current or 20 or 30 years old, it doesn't matter. It's much like your fingerprint. Your fingerprint stays with you for life. So many times people will send us a photograph that's 20 or 30 years old. It doesn't matter. Some people will send us photographs of just their hand. They don't want to show their face. That's okay. All I need is a photograph of your skin, some part of your anatomy. Again, consider that. Everybody should try scalar light therapy. Everybody. Yes. She's asking about orgone energy. It's identical. William Reich was a scalar energy researcher, and he was able to break apart clouds. He called it a cloud buster. Well, remember, scalar energy can either assemble matter or break apart matter. So when William Reich was using orgone energy accumulators, he was able to break apart clouds. So you see the versatility of this energy. We're going to have control, mastery over the physical universe. Scalar energy is responsible for hydrogen bond, covalent bonds. If we can control the chemical bonds in nature and do so readily, then we can control physical matter. It's alchemy. Some might say that this is alchemy, that we finally have mastery over the physical universe. I will say without equivocation, when I'm working with these scalar light instruments, I have mastery over the herpes virus because I can disassemble the hydrogen bonds that hold together the DNA. And if I can do that, the herpes virus falls apart. It fragments. It's all painless and simple. Yes. It's not primitive. It's quite sophisticated. I only showed you one photograph. Yeah. Well, you didn't see. I know you didn't see the circuitry inside the transformer. It's quite. The instrumentation is unique. It is custom built. I work with a group of engineers and fabricators around the United States and even in Canada in order to assemble these instruments. They're all custom built. And the key to these instruments is ratio and proportion. Because once you're working your way into that dimension, the scalar light dimension, you have to access that double helix. It's all about being able to access that matrix energy or the God force energy. And the key to any scalar light instrument is the entree, is the interface between the instrument and the existing scalar energy dimension. Yes. Right. Right. In order for me to break apart a germ, a microbe, I have to have an actual photograph of that microbe, that microorganism. So I have over 400,000 photographs of microorganisms, microbes. And in so doing, then the instrument will break apart every microbe that I have a photograph of. We call that the reverse polarity. The in-phase polarity allows us to assemble vitamins, micronutrients, antioxidants, amino acids, fatty acids. How do I do that? I take photographs of amino acids, I place them in the instrument, and then the instrument is instructed to assemble amino acids. So everything I do is by way of photographs. Microphotographs of parasites, of pathogens, are used to destroy parasites and pathogens. Microphotographs of nutrients are used to instruct the instrument to assemble those nutrients. So the key element is this. There's no guessing. There's no guesswork. There's no human thinking here. It's the photograph that's. He's asking.
I'm going to actually give anybody, if you have a question for Tom, because the people live stream have a hard time hearing you. If you could just put up your hand so we could give you the mic so they can hear you as Tom is answering the question. If that's all right? Okay.
Yep. The gentleman asked, what is instructing it? The instruction is that of the photograph. And then Scalar will carry that photograph of the actual molecular structure found on that photograph inside the body. So Scalar Energy will look at a photograph, scan that photograph, and send that exact molecular structure, that exact molecular configuration into the body. So if I want to break apart the molecular structure of herpes, I simply take a photograph, a magnified photograph of the DNA of herpes, and then I subject my body to that energetic pattern. That energetic pattern will then serve to break apart the DNA of herpes. That's the reverse polarity. Phase polarity, if I were to take, say, a micro photograph of, say, vitamin C, and I would place that photograph of vitamin C into the instrument, my instrument will look at that character, that molecular construction, that structural formula of vitamin C, and then download that exact molecular formula into my body. So everything is done by way of photographs. Photograph serves as the media, as the instructions behind the operation. Why is that important? There's no guesswork. There's no guesswork. So whatever photograph I have, the instrument then will take that essence, will take that if you will, that very download of energy, that download of intelligence found on a photograph, and then transmit that energy into the human body. So it's a dependable process. So what am I getting at? If I have a photograph of the herpes virus, I can instruct my instrument to break apart that molecular structure found on that photograph. One of the problems we have with medicine today is we have to find the right chemical drugs to break apart or to at least impair cellular function. Well, what are we doing with Scalar? There's no interpretation. Whatever the microbe, whatever the pathogen I place inside the instrument will destroy, will fragment that microbe. There's no guesswork with Scalar. Hence, with a Scalar Light instrument, I can depend upon it to break apart, to fragment the herpes virus. It's a dependable process. Yes?
A couple of things. One is the thing breaking apart the pathogen. How does the body then release that?
Sure.
Or just go into another part of the body? What's happening with it?
Imagine you have a virus, and you shatter, you fragment that virus into smaller proteins and smaller physical forms such as elements. Then the body will reincorporate those amino acids, those proteins, into the body as nutrition. So you're taking something that's harmful, a virus, and you fragment it. You break it apart into proteins or elements such as hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. And what does the body then do with that? Uses that as nutrition. Most of the time, it will simply use that as a power source or as a food supply. So the beauty about this is there's no Herxheimer reaction, there's no die-off, because you're changing one physical form into another instantly. You see, a chemical process, Scalar Energy will release those chemical bonds, and that chemical process then is so immediate, it's an instantaneous transmutation from one physical form to another. So in one instant, we go from a herpes virus to fragments of the herpes virus, such as proteins and elements. The virus no longer exists. The toxins no longer exist. So if the virus no longer exists, you're no longer infected with the herpes virus. If the toxins no longer exist, then there's no threat of a toxic shock or a Herxheimer reaction or a die-off. This is transmutation. I can't emphasize that enough. We're taking one molecular form and we're changing it instantaneously to another molecular form. So many times I treat infants without incidents, without any negative side effect. How can I do that? It's not a chemical. I don't work with drugs. I work with light, sunlight, or starlight. That's what Scalar Light is. And I'm changing a harmful, either a toxin or a pathogen, instantly. I transmute that instantly. I release the molecular bonds, so the toxin and the pathogen instantly disassemble. They no longer exist. If they no longer exist, they no longer pose a threat to human health. Now, I work with people around the world, and we don't experience die-off or Herxheimer reactions. We don't experience a significant purging. How can that be? Because it's not a chemical process. It's a different way of looking at microbial infection. You're changing one microbial form into smaller, harmless particles. And you do it all by way of releasing the molecular bonds of a microbe, of a virus, of a bacterium.
So if you're working with cancer cells where they're mutated, of that.
Yeah, I don't have the answer for cancer yet. I envision a very, very strong scalar instrument that will download its waveform, which is a double helix, into the body. And hopefully we can correct then DNA and repair DNA with scalar light. That's a project for the future. Yes, sir. Yes. No. The lady asked about the character of a photograph. It does not have to be a full body photograph. All we need is some part of your skin. So many people just send in a bust shot, okay, or just your face, correct? Some people, for privacy, only want to send in a photograph of their hand. Okay? All right? So that's the beauty of Scalar. It's such a versatile tool. It allows us to have mastery over physical forms. Yes? Caused by viruses. Some people say the cytomegalovirus will attack the organs and will break down and will cause the dysfunction, organ dysfunction. So how can I help people with diabetes? I'm able to eradicate the viruses, the bacteria in their body. Okay? And in so doing, we can prevent, in many cases, we can prevent disease. Here's a great example. Many people, many women are acutely aware of the human papillomavirus. HPV, human papillomavirus, is the #1 cause of cervical cancer. Well, we've had a number of women that we've worked with, and we have shown that we're able to break apart, we're able to disassemble the human papillomavirus. So that in and of itself is a prophylactic measure. If you can break apart and eradicate the human papillomavirus, we should be able to prevent some cases of cervical cancer. Now consider at least 20 to 25% of all human cancers are caused by viruses. And many of those viruses we can fragment, disassemble. So what am I saying? In the future, when a great number of people are under Scalar, we should make a significant impact upon the incidence of cancer. If you can if you can eradicate the viruses from the body, we should see a reduction in the number of cancer cases. Yes. 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 Right. Right. She's asking specifically about fibromyalgia. You're right. Okay, we'll take one at a time. Fibromyalgia, you're right. It's a catch-all phrase. What is fibromyalgia? Some people say it's initiated, or a traveling partner would be the Epstein-Barr virus. We're able to break apart the Epstein-Barr virus. We have test results that prove that from people around the world. Will that help some people with fibromyalgia? Yes. Okay. There are other pathogens that have been associated with other pathogens that have been associated with fibromyalgia. Another component to fibromyalgia might be the microbiome relationship to the brain. A lot of people say that a depletion of serotonin might cause or occasion fibromyalgia, this muscle stiffness or this muscle pain. It's been shown that some people, if they can regulate their serotonin, they see that their fibromyalgia is assuaged to some extent. So there has to be a connection with some people with fibromyalgia from the microbiome, the gut, to the brain. Okay? So that might be a cause and effect, if you will, for fibromyalgia. Now, as far as Lyme is concerned, Lyme disease in North America is caused by the bacterium Borrelia burgdorferi. We are able to break apart Borrelia. We can break apart the Lyme spirochete. We can also break apart and eradicate the co-infections that are found in Lyme disease from ticks and fleas. So that is all encompassing under that umbrella of 400,000 species of pathogens and parasites that we can destroy. So I can say to you without equivocation, we can help many people with Lyme disease. We can at least destroy the Lyme spirochete and the co-infections of Lyme. But that doesn't mean you're out of the woods, because with Lyme, we see many people, there's a poor absorption of nutrients, and there's long-standing neuropathy, nerve damage, nerve disease. So it really, there's so many factors with Lyme disease. But I can say that we've had test results that have shown, that have proven that we can eradicate the Lyme spirochete. So that is a step in the right direction. Yes? Right. Right. No. She's asking, is the superbug created? In no way. Why? Because when you're working with chemicals, with drugs, those chemicals give a microbe a chance to adapt. Now, with Scalar, we're at the fundamental level, we're at the quantum level, in which we disassemble the molecular bonds, the chemical bonds of a microbe. So a microbe cannot adapt to anything. Good point. Nothing supersedes energy. So when you're working with that fundament, Scalar Light, you can control a microbe. The microbe cannot react to drug intervention and become drug resistant. Now that segues into the next topic. Many microbes now, many germs are becoming drug resistant. And it's hard for medicine to keep up with these changes, these adaptations that many microbes are experiencing. So in the future, the remedy will be Scalar, because nothing can supersede energy, light. And Scalar Light, remember, is the fundament, is the controlling, the animating force that controls a molecular bond. So no matter of how a germ has adapted, how a microbe has adapted, we can release those molecular bonds, the germ fragments, it falls apart. Good question. Yes. No. She's asking, well, how do I pinpoint? I don't pinpoint. I work with people identically. And when I'm working with people, I provide a session in which we always look at all 400,000 species of germs. So a pathogenic cleanse was a consummate approach to wellness in which everybody will undergo this session, and we will address potentially now 400,000 species of viruses, bacteria, protozoan within one Scalar Light session. That way we can assure ourselves, regardless of what you're suffering from, that umbrella approach, that universal approach will serve to eradicate the pathogens from head to toe. Now, I also want to make this very clear. On a daily basis, we're working with people for pathogens. In other words, we perform a pathogenic cleanse every day. And that serves to improve the health of people around the world, because some people become quickly reinfected with microbes, with bacterial infection. Many people have told me they have constant strep throat. Well, if we're working with people on a daily basis, then we can destroy the streptococcus that's causing strep throat on a daily basis. Here's a factoid for you. If you look at all the wars, revolutions, and insurrections, and the people who have died and suffered from war and revolutions, that pales in comparison to the people who've suffered and died from germs, from microbial infection. The greater number of people have died from the plague, microbial infection, than from all the wars. So this is the step that we're taking tonight in Toronto. It's a new way of living. It's a new dynamic. This Scalar Light session, this Scalar Light approach will change the medical landscape. He asks, how many times does a person need to undergo this session? That's an open-ended question. It only takes one session to break apart a germ. But some people, their immune system is so compromised, they like to stay on the sessions for 3 or 4 months. That's a great question. Now, keep in mind, it's not just about breaking apart germs. There's 2 other components that I've mentioned. We're able to assemble to create nutrients in the body. Why is that important? people need to regenerate. Many, by the way, as you realize, these germs, these microorganisms, how do they live? They live off of our tissue and off of our food supply. Okay? How does a microbe survive in our body? They consume our tissue and they consume our food. Many people, for instance, with Lyme disease are malnourished because the Lyme spirochete steals the food supply. That's been established. So please eat well. Don't buy junk food. Eat well. Purchase healthful food. Eat well. Please do not eat junk food. And you might want to supplement. And I think our nutrient program is a great way to supplement your diet. No program should replace food. Okay? Food is the king. Food is medicine. But I believe our nutrient program will assemble nutrients in the body, and that's a great way to give you an ancillary support for nutrition. Hang on one second. Thank you, sir. The gentleman is, you're a genius. Everybody in this room is a genius, by the way. And I mean that. The gentleman asked, is there any capacity to my instrument? The instrument, in 1 hour, if we miniaturize a photograph, could easily work with 10 million photographs. We could work with 10 million people an hour. In a couple days, we could work with everybody in Canada. Understand where this is going. Okay? Nothing can stop a photograph. People can submit me photographs all day long. And then the transmission is secured. It's guaranteed. So to answer your question, an instrument can easily work with 10 million people an hour. Yes?
So my question is, let's say we're doing Scalar and we're also working with Tracy at the same time. A disease that's been in the body for way too long. Instead of taking, let's say, 6 months or a year, how fast do you think that we can get rid of?
She's asking, if you're working with Scalar, will that accelerate the healing? In many cases, yes. Your question is a great question, but I'd have to pinpoint what disease and how long you've been infected, or if it is indeed a pathogenic infection or something else. I will speak as a way of presenting it, that Scalar Light will break apart, will negate a molecular bond of a microbe immediately, instantly. How quickly you repair is a function of many variables. Diet, age, how long you've been infected, etc. Yeah. We have passed out, and some of you have seen this ambitious program. We've passed out a collage. I think all of you have taken a look at a collage. Now, for instance, this is a collage that was submitted to me from Africa. This collage has 200 people, over 200 people on one piece of paper. On the screen here, we see another collage. This is our humanitarian effort. So we have Christian missionaries going around from town to town in Africa taking photographs of people. Sometimes they photograph most of the people in a town or a community. And they submit the collage to me. And we're able to eradicate the malaria parasite. We're able to break apart viruses. We're able to eradicate the bacterium that causes cholera by way of collages. So as the gentleman asked me, what's the capacity of this instrument, I would say we could easily work with 10 million people an hour. And you see the beginning of the healing of humanity. These collages are starting to come into us from around the world. We're going to change the way we live. Scalar is going to have such a gigantic impact upon mankind. This is the beginning. Okay? Your time is well spent tonight. This is not hyperbole. This is real. In the next 5 years, this will be headline news. You will remember this conversation tonight. Okay? Because by then, we will be working with 10 million people a day. And it will be headline news. And all of you now are called to be a part of that. Work with Tracy. I'm forming an alliance with Tracy. Tracy's so gracious, I'm going to try and fly up here again soon. And let's just keep talking about this. And we'll continue to amass a body of knowledge, a scientific body of evidence that will be irrefutable. After thousands upon thousands of test results and millions of people giving testimonies, it will be unstoppable. And then the world will get behind us. Yes.
I'm just looking at your programs here. You have the standard Scalar program.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was taking that program, you offer some other ones here, like maybe the endorphin and the neurotransmitter.
Yes.
Can you take them at the same time, or are you best to do them separately?
Yeah. Most people try the treatments, the sessions simultaneously. Why? Because they want to feel great. So the standard session that I've only spoken about tonight, the standard session is the pathogenic cleanse, the chakra balancing, the nutrient program. That can be augmented with, say, endorphins and neurotransmitters. What do I mean? We have a separate program called endorphins and neurotransmitters in which we can assemble dopamine, acetylcholine, serotonin in the body. And the uptick, the upshot of that is people are happy. When you are assembling these happy chemicals inside the body, we see in people that their spirits are elevated. We see that people are happier. So to answer your question, many people will take 2 or 3 sessions simultaneously. There's no interference. Right now, I am working with 5 sessions right now. I'm working with the standardized session, male hormones, endorphins, neurotransmitters, natural foods. We're able to assemble natural foods in the body. And we have another program, mineral and precious stones. So those 5 sessions I am experiencing simultaneously. And I will say it has improved my health over the years. Yes. Yes.
Is this something that you can teach other people to do?
Yes. She's asking, can I teach other people to do this? Yes. That's the whole point of coming here tonight. I'll be quite candid. I am rather flummoxed that the world hasn't caught on to this yet. I'm presenting evidence that we're able to eradicate pathogens. We have thousands of testimonies on the website. The world has to get involved. This is not a one-man show. So, do I want people to get involved? Yes. Please become proactive. We have, before you leave, you can come up here and take home some brochures. These brochures allow anybody in the world to receive 15 days of free sessions. Just pass them out to your friends here in Toronto. The website, if you go to the website, there's a top banner in red, free trial. Anybody in the world can click that free trial and submit photos. And do so for your entire family. So I want this to be very open. I want this to be very engaging. I don't want any impediments. I don't want any barricades. I want the world to get involved. I know it seems too good to be true, but it's real. This is real. So please tell your friends and family, get people involved with us. Let's change the world. And I'll come up to Toronto frequently. This has been a dynamic crowd. Okay? And again, I thank Tracy and her crew for pulling this off. Toronto's always been very warm to my delivery. Toronto's always been very gracious anytime I've come up here. So it says a lot about the people and their character in this town. So here to Canada. Thank you.
I just have one question.
Yes.
So, gut issues are very prevalent, from colon diseases, diverticulitis, IBS, and now I notice a lot with younger kids. I don't remember this when I was younger, but I don't know. So I don't know if that's food related. I don't know if that. How does your therapy help with that?
Let's discuss gut diseases. I think in part some of that is caused by GMO food. We have the ability now with Scalar, we can break apart those transgenic genes. Okay? Scalar, again, is so versatile. We're able to break down these man-made genes that are found in GMO corn or GMO soy, etc. So I think it's expedient that we do not eat GMO food, and that the Scalar process now does include a GMO cleanse. Okay? There's other causes, perhaps endocrine disruptors, chemicals in our food, pesticides that can cause that dysbiosis.
I can attest. I, at 5, had diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and ulcers. 5 years old, long time ago. And you have to understand that, yes, GMO food is now a big effect. the most of it will be your stress levels in your body and your environmental stress, which will then lead to breeding more of these viruses and pathogens. That's why you have to pay attention to your surroundings. That's why you have to pay attention to what's going on in your body. That's why you have to know, and that's what Tom's saying. Yeah, you got to change your food. The nutrients are not in our food anymore. Go to Europe, you know, very different taste than here. You also know that we've lost most of our nutrients, which are also causing a lot of issues. They've proven scientifically, ADHD in children, lack of iodine in the systems. So these viruses and pathogens leak into your body. So you also have to ask yourself, I'll tell you, at 5 years old, that wasn't fun to have. I got rid of it all, but you know, I'm going to tell you I lived like that for over 32 years. And you really have to look at your stress levels, because all these viruses that Tom's talking about love your stress. They love it. Why do you think North America is on a stress wheel? Go, 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 go. Because these viruses, it's their breeding ground. Sugar is their breeding ground. So you get this beautiful energy of clearing these pathogens like what Tom's doing. Then you got to learn to get rid of the stress and what's really causing it. And I just bless you all that you can actually start to see that and take action, because that's the second part that's actually killing your body.
Thank you. Tom, if I may, something that caught my attention during one of the interviews that you had with Tracy on her radio show, you brought up the research, I'm not sure if it's current research or future research, of spiritual development in terms of a treatment or something like that. Possibility?
Spiritual enhancement, spiritual session, spiritual treatment. I think that's possible. I come from a Christian background. I believe Scalar Light is a divine origin. I believe it's light directly from the Creator. That is, it has a divine character. Now, when we develop very high-powered scalar light instruments, that means the divine energy is going to enter into our body, including our soul, including our mind. And I think that's going to have a profound impact upon people's thinking, upon their spiritual awareness. I will say that in the future, the chakra balancing will be so strong that we'll be able to correct phobias and correct harmful behavior. It's going to be a download, if you will, of white light into the body. And that will be able to enhance not only our thinking, but we should be able to correct our conscience. So I predict in the future, as we learn more about scalar, it will be a corrective energy that we will use to correct our conscience as well as balancing our 7 chakras. By the way, everybody has 7 chakras, and if you look at the composition of a chakra, it spins, correct? And it's light. Well, why does it spin? Because it's a double helix. Scalar spins. So the 7 chakras are 7 points of scalar energy, and they spin because scalar energy has that rotation about it. So we see that scalar energy is a direct interface with the 7 chakras, which are composed of scalar light. And the human soul, everybody has a soul, everybody has spirit. The soul is composed of scalar light. So the bridge to our spirituality will be by way of scalar light, because our soul is composed of scalar light. And our 7 chakras are composed of scalar light likewise. So you see the promise here, how engaging this is. We finally have the tool to access the soul, the spirit, the mind, the emotions. Well, it all comes down to, will God give me wisdom? And I work with some of the engineers that I work with. Will God give them wisdom likewise? I wish I could do everything tomorrow. I alluded to the fact earlier in the delivery that Nikola Tesla, the great scientist Nikola Tesla, he was this close to give the world scalar light, scalar energy, and that would have been a free source of energy. It's sunlight or starlight. So consider what I'm saying. Scalar energy will produce an infinite supply of energy, a power output for us. And we don't have to create a power plant. What is the power plant? The sun and the stars. So this is clean energy. It leaves no carbon footprint. And we won't have to dig for coal or drill for oil or split atoms anymore. This is the future. Clean energy. An infinite supply of energy. So as we learn more about scalar light, scalar energy, and the implications, this is going to change the way we live. Scalar light will have a greater impact upon mankind than that of the computer. Imagine your life with and without a computer. Scalar light, scalar energy technology will have a greater impact upon the world than that of the computer. Questions? Yes. We have a graduated scale. We work with people on a monthly basis, 30 days. One person would be, I'm quoting US, one person would be 147, two people would be 187, three people would be 247. But if you're Canadian, we have a Canadian option which you pay in Canadian dollars. Okay? So we always allow people to purchase in Canadian. Yes. Yes. When I work with people, I work with them on a daily basis. And every day I perform a pathogenic cleanse, I balance their chakras, and I provide nutrients to the body. You're actually being under the instruments for 24 hours a day. 1 hour a day, we perform a pathogenic cleanse. 1 hour a day, we balance your chakras. And the other 22 hours a day, we assemble nutrients in your body. So it's round-the-clock sessions, round the clock. We're working with you with Scalar. Oh, yeah. We'll get it back for you. She's asking. She was a practitioner under our program. See me after the talk. Yes. The salient point is everybody has to be aware that they're receiving a session. The key is education, but we'll work around that. Gavin's our IT director, and we're going to figure out a way to make this all work. Yes.
I just have a question about, what about psoriasis?
Some people who come to me with psoriasis, it's an autoimmune disease. So I don't have the answer for autoimmune diseases. We can at least eradicate many of the bacteria and fungi that are responsible for skin irritation or skin infection. So many people who come to us with psoriasis or eczema see an improvement because we can at least eliminate those microbes that are causing this skin irritation or the topical skin infection. I cannot reverse, I don't have the answer or cure for autoimmune disease. What a great audience. What a great audience. Any other questions? Dementia. I work with many people with dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. It's expedient that we have to work with people quickly to get the spirochetes, the viruses, the pathogens out of the brain. Because many times we see dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, at least initiated by this microbial infection. I've read various studies that there is now a clear link between herpes 1 and Alzheimer's because herpes 1 virus can pass the blood-brain barrier and infect the brain. So many people who have Alzheimer's have been shown to carry the herpes virus in their brain. Now, what does the herpes virus do? Well, the herpes family is neuroinvasive. It attacks nerves, including the nerves, the neurons in our brain. And that's going to cause impairment. So it's crucial that we remove these pathogens from the body. I do not have the cure for Alzheimer's. I do not have the cure for dementia, but I have helped many people, and we've slowed down the progression of dementia and Alzheimer's by eradicating the viruses and the spirochetes that are infecting their brain and their their base ganglia. Yes. I'm sorry? She's asking about Ebola. Yes, and I will say to you, we've had great success with eradicating Ebola. Right now, I'm working with various missionaries in Africa who are taking photographs of people who either have Ebola or have been suspected of carrying Ebola. But we have worked with people, especially back in 2014 with the outbreak. And when people would submit their photographs to us, everybody that I was able to work with Ebola, provided they were not hemorrhaging, everybody survived. We were able to destroy the Ebola virus, and all of them survived, provided they were not bleeding. If you're bleeding, then you have to, the rest, you need the proper medical attention. But I will say that Scalar can control, once again, a microbe. Scalar is responsible for controlling molecular and atomic forms. And if we can break down the molecular bonds that hold together the Ebola virus breaks apart. And that's what I'm saying to you. We can break apart the Ebola virus. Yes. Candida? Yes, we can break apart the fungus, Candida albicans, Candida tropicalis, various species of Candida. Yes. Yes. What she's asking, will somebody call me? No, I treat everybody in a universal fashion. I do not diagnose. I want to underscore that. So when I want to also mention, I'm a researcher. I'm not a physician. I'm not a nurse. So people send me their photographs, and everybody is treated identically. So when you submit your photograph to us, we will submit this energy, and we will perform a pathogenic cleanse in which we target now potentially 400,000 species of germs, microbes. But I do not diagnose. So it's not incumbent upon you to tell me your medical condition. I don't ask that. Frankly, it's none of my business. That's correct. My specialty is a pathogenic cleanse. Now, those I have the ability to address pathogenic disease, parasitic disease. I cannot address cancer. I don't have the answer for autoimmune diseases. I cannot address diabetes. So my specialty are diseases caused by microbes, germs. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We have a new program. It's called Minerals and Precious Stones. Why did I come out with that? Well, if you look at the human body, 99% of our composition is either carbon, calcium, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, or phosphorus. So that's the composition. We're made out of minerals. So I have a mineral precious stone component. So the minerals are designed to assemble minerals in our body that we need. That's crucial to human health. That's our constitution. We are made out of elements. What type of elements? Minerals. So how do you get those minerals? Well, from the food that we eat. Obviously, that comes from our soil, provided the soil has not been demineralized. But many times our soil has been compromised, so the food uptake of minerals is lacking. So in order to come up with a solution to that shortfall, we have to establish the mineral and precious stone therapy, in which we're able to assemble minerals and precious stones inside the body. Now, why precious stones? Well, these are precious stones that have been shown to enhance our spiritual or our cognitive presence, such as sapphire, and ruby, and diamonds. The precious stones are designed to improve our spiritual health, our emotional health. So we have the minerals for our physical constitution, and then we have the precious stones for our spiritual and our mental health. That's the thinking behind those two. Stones, minerals from the earth. Some are base minerals and some are precious stones. Yes. Yes. She's asking about kidney stones and gallstones. Many times people come to us and they say that we've improved their kidney stones or gallstones. I think one of the reasons is we're able to break apart a microbe. It's called nanobacteria. Nanobacteria secretes or produces some type of calcium buildup. And many people who have kidney stones and gallstones are infected by this microbe, nanobacteria, that is the underlying cause of their kidney stone or gallstone. So the fact that we can break apart this microbe, nanobacteria, subsequently we see the disintegration, if you will, of a kidney stone or a gallstone. That happens with some people, not with everybody. So we do have limited success with kidney stones and gallstones. When we do have success, I theorize it's because we're able to break apart nanobacteria and other pathogens that are responsible for that calculus, responsible for that creation. Yes, it is. Yeah, we work with everybody for nanobacteria. You're going to see this microbe, by the way, nanobacteria. Emergent evidence is coming out. It's very small, and it's been associated with everything from calcium deposits in the breast that could cause breast cancer, calcium deposits in the brain that could cause an aneurysm. This nanobacteria produces a calcium calculus inside our liver. It's been shown to cause sometimes kidney stones and gallstones, as we've mentioned. So nanobacteria also can be found in our heart. And this leads to the blockage, the buildup of plaque in our heart. So many people have the buildup of heart plaque. It's really the accretion, if you will, of calcium produced by nanobacteria. So nanobacteria infecting our arteries can lead to heart disease. So in some cases, we can help people with heart disease by destroying, by killing, if you will, this nanobacteria. And in turn, nanobacteria then will dissolve the calcium buildup in our arteries. Many people who've been shown to have chronic heart disease are really suffering from nanobacteria infection. Yes. Correct. Yes. We can help, but I don't have the cure. We can help. For instance, I'll give you a parallel. We can help many people with arthritis. Many people have bacterial or fungal infection in their joints. They have inflammation, and that hurts their movement. It's been shown that after a week or two under the pathogenic cleanse, people can move. They no longer have that joint stiffness, okay? Correct, we can help the symptoms. Very good. Exactly, thanks. Yes. With addiction, we're taking photographs of recreational drugs such as heroin and cocaine. We're placing them in the instrument. And then we're telling the instrument to break apart heroin and cocaine in the body. And that has a twofold function. We can break apart the leftover chemical bonds or any type of residual leftover of heroin, cocaine, LSD, marijuana. And then secondly, I think there's a psychic or a spiritual dimension to Scalar that will hopefully reverse that energetic pattern. So it's not only breaking apart the chemical bonds of a recreational drug or a pharmaceutical product, it's also a matter of releasing that energetic bond or that spiritual bond. So I believe Scalar can do both. Correct. Yes, we've been able to help some people with alcoholism. They've been able to either reduce their alcoholic consumption or quit altogether. Yes, with the same program. Sugar's included in that. We're actually treating for soft drinks, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, because I think that's an addiction too. So I take actual photographs of Coca-Cola and I place it in the instrument. And the instrument then will start breaking down the molecular bonds found in Coca-Cola. And it will also negate or hopefully correct that hold, that energetic hold, that desire, if you will, for Coca-Cola and for soft drinks.
So we're going to take about 2 more questions. It's 9 o'clock. and I know Tom has an early flight, and you guys, I know we do this even at our events. People have been here. We could go till midnight. So we love that you're answering, but we'll take 2 more questions, and then I'm going to let Tom answer what he needs at the end so we can make sure that everybody is fully received.
Hi, Tom. I just have a question about the addiction program that you have. If their drug of choice is not cocaine or heroin, does it still work?
Many times it does. The chakra balancing seems to correct that behavior. The chakra balancing seems to reprogram the 7 chakras so that people no longer have an affinity, a desire for alcohol and recreational drugs. We've seen many people, some people, it's so strong we're able to quit cold turkey. People have been on amphetamines or meth for years or smoked pot for years. They've been able to quit cold turkey. Now, I'm not in the drug arena. I am not a drug specialist. But Scalar can correct, can put that download of information so that some people can quit cold turkey on alcohol, cigarettes, recreational drugs. We've seen that from some people. So what is that? That has to be a download of information. It's the double helix, once again, this divine energy that can correct that type of behavior. And we have those testimonies on our website. I cannot promise that. I wish I could promise everybody that we could efface drug addiction. It doesn't work that way, but we can help some people.
Do you recommend Scalar for during pregnancy or any preventative measures for the fetus?
Many women go on Scalar to keep the fetus germ-free, so to speak. So many women, when they're pregnant, they'll simply submit their photograph. And in so doing, the child in womb will likewise be treated in vivo. Yes. 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 How does Scalar help with mental health? There has to be sometimes a chemical imbalance with mental health, and I think the 7 chakras have a lot to do with proper mental health. So Scalar, as an informative energy, as instructive energy, can reprogram brain waves, can reprogram the 7 chakras. Okay, so that's the theory behind it. I also think that it carries a spiritual component, that if Scalar is a divine energy, I believe it is, then that can correct a phobia, or some type of addiction that really comes down to improper behavior. So Scalar in some capacity probably corrects our conscious, our decisions. It corrects our behavior. So it opens up the door to so many possibilities. Again, I'm only one researcher, and this is what I've accomplished. If the world gets involved, we're going to change the world with this technology. That's the point of my delivery tonight. I want people to get involved. Yes. Right. No, she's asking about 5G. I agree with this heavy concentration of electromagnetic energy by way of 5G and all of these towers. Some people find that inimical. Some people have adverse reaction to this concentration of energy, electromagnetic energy. Those 5G towers do not in any way interface with Scalar. Scalar wave is a different dimension. So 5G technology does not in any way interfere with Scalar. It's a different dimension, Scalar. This is going to be problematic in the future. In Florida, I live sort of out in the country, so I don't really have to worry about 5G. But in a crowded city, I forecast that 5G will be a problem for many people. It's really a great deal of electromagnetic energy, let's just face it, and it's been proven that such a high concentration of that energy has proven to produce cellular mutation, cancer. Some people say they've seen tumor growth. Some people say that makes people jittery. All of the above. Scalar cannot negate a 5G tower. I cannot do that. The only thing I could say that if you're subjected to a lot of 5G radiation, that the chakra balancing should be able to help you. It should be restorative, but I cannot offset a 5G grid system. It's going to be a problem in the near future. I've been doing this all my life. I'm 59 years old. I studied Nikola Tesla as a kid, and I said, I want to do what he did. And it's been my passion throughout my life. Yes. How long does somebody need to be on the program? That's hard to say. You have to be the judge. If you see results, stay on it. Okay? Please work with Tracy as a body whisperer. Please be proactive. You need to work with people like Tracy, and you need to take the necessary steps to improve your health. I'm speaking in general now. I'm speaking in third person. And the world can change, and it can change quickly for the better. We have the ability to cure ourselves. We have the ability to enjoy a zest for life. Everybody should be happy and healthy. And this is my design. I want a healthy human race. I want a healthy planet. And that's why I've devoted myself to this type of research. It's so easy, by way of a photograph. It's affordable. It's inexpensive, and it's painless. So this is the future of medicine. It's a new chapter in medicine. So I ask you to just tell the people, your friends here in Toronto, so that this can grow. Again, I live in Florida. I won't be up here frequently, but I will come up 2 or 3 times a year.
You know,
Yes, one more question.
In your opinion, how do you feel Scalar Light will affect vaccinations?
How will Scalar affect vaccination? Well, the biological agents introduced into the body by way of a vaccine, we can break apart, we can destroy most of those biological agents. So many people are worried about vaccination. Scalar, the pathogenic cleanse, will break apart many of those biological agents introduced into the body to produce that immune response. So we are able to eradicate many of the pathogens that are introduced into the body by way of vaccination. Yeah. I'm going to leave a few concluding remarks from our hostess, Tracy.
Yeah. Let's give Tom a round of applause. Thank him for coming. I know, everything is connected, and this is a space, and we've created a community that does a lot of giving back, and that's why Tom and I are here tonight. It's a community that helps you understand what's going on in your world, helps you shift. And I'm here because for most people, if you know my story, if you don't, and I'm not going to go into it, but I had to get rid of a lot of sickness, illness, and disease after 3 near-death experiences and decide to stay. And if you can expand your field of perception, there's a reason everybody says we're nuts. When you go into the energy world, you're crazy, you're nuts. Anybody else heard that, right? You're all nuts. Well, I'm glad I'm nuts, and I'm glad I went into that space. I had to learn something different. The only way you get change in your life, the only way you're going to change, and you don't want to be like everybody else out there, is you have to start to look at something different. And that's where Scalar comes in. It's where I come in. We teach you together how to look at something different, how to take charge of your body, because you have to. It's the new way. It's the only way. And if you've ever come up to a dead end or you're not sure, it's because you're not looking outside the box. And I want to share one thing about really looking outside the box. You're talking about viruses and you're talking about pathogens, and it's awesome and it's great because they can go, and it is a new way. I see energetically that in the next, I've showed you, so Tom, 2026, you're going to see some of the biggest changes in technology and advancements for your health. But you also have to take that energy space, and that's why Scalar is so great. It's why what we do energetically here every month is so great, because you get to release all of that information out of your body. And I want to share one thing is, for me personally, about not giving up, and if it can inspire you to say I never want to give up. I was born with a really bad nerve system disorder. I shook like this all the time. That's how I walked around. People asked me if I had seizures. And I got rid of the shake on my arms and my eyes. And I had 5 neurologists tell me I would never, ever get rid of this, ever. I never gave up. I never gave up. I knew for my body and that I needed a physical adjustment. I knew everything else. I found the right person, one time, done. I don't shake, never shook again. But what I'm saying, if it can inspire you to look at something like this, look at the pathogen and say, look, you know what? What does it hurt to do something different? Because the people that are just not doing anything different anymore, the people that just sit there dormant, they're dying fast. They're going to be sick fast. They're miserable. They're not enjoying life. Their money sucks. Their relationships are crappy, right? But I will tell you, somebody asked why Alex slept for 10 hours on the online when she started doing the pathogen cleanse. Your body has to clean out. I've done energy sessions with people and they sleep for a week. They sleep for a week because the body has to catch up. And you got to understand something with the scalar energy, and when Tom and I are working with you guys and changing, because it's easy to say it, you got to know how to do it. A lot of people say they can do it, but they can't. What Tom does and what I do is very actually specific. It's very specific. And when your body, you have to look at it this way. He moves a pathogen out of your body. I've cleared the emotions out of your body. Your body now goes, oh my God, what just happened? The energy, because you're all connected, if I'm the body that just got cleaned out, the energy that Tom just cleaned out is over there. So now remember, your body has to catch up. That's why you sleep. That's why you feel a little bit more tired. Your body is now coming over to where the energy was that he just shifted. The only way you're going to get change is you have to take ownership. And no matter what, I can guarantee some of you are going to go out there, you're going to take your brochures, you say, oh my gosh, I learned some great stuff. I call it new devil, new level, if you know anything about me. When we shift you, and I'm going to shift you guys right now as we're talking. Thank you, God. But you're going to hand them the brochure. They're going to go, that's nonsense. That can't happen. My doctor didn't like that. And I'm saying this because you have to take a stance. I heard that 1,000,000 times in my life. 1,000,000 times. I'm not kidding. I didn't care. I said, that's nice. That's interesting. That's a tip. When someone says something like that to you, go, that's interesting. The energy will fall flat. It won't go into your body. Body, I'm not taking that in. A few little tips you can take away. But if you want to listen to all of them, you're going to end up like them. If you want to actually say, look, I can do something different. This is technology. Tom's a scientist. He tells you all day long. He's a scientist. I've been in this space myself for 16 years on the energy side. And we don't stop. We don't stop because our goal, our mission is to make sure each and every one of you live nice, healthy, happy lives. But you have to show up. So he's treating you, I'm cleaning you, but you got to show up and do the work. So if that partner is partly what's killing you, you got to leave. Sorry, it's true. And I'll tell you, if you can do that, all these viruses, they're not going to come back in your system. You don't have to worry. You don't have to walk around saying, am I going to get this again? Because you won't have the frequency. You will not have the frequency if you do the work. That's why we're here every month. That's why you're with Tom for a month on his scalar. You get hit. You get changed. You get to look at what's shifting. Then you get real transformation. And that's what you have to ask yourself. Is there anyone in here that doesn't really want transformation? I think it's volumes. Does anyone have family that you love that you're like, why wouldn't they listen? Right? Yeah. Don't worry if they're not going to come on board. Keep going. Show them. And if somebody looks at that pamphlet and goes, they're not ready to hear it, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time if they're not ready to hear it. But they'll see your life change. Lead by example. They'll see your life change. They'll hear your testimonial, just like we were talking with Alex. And then they're going to go, what are you doing? What's happening? Because there's a few things that Tom and I get all the time that's consistent. All the time. I hear it in my workshops. He hears it. Why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I wait so long? What was my problem? You were scared as hell to learn something different and that you would no longer be the norm. Well, this is the community we're creating, of brave souls just like you. You don't want to be the norm. You don't want to be, well, maybe norm over there, but you don't want to be the norm. You want to be a proof, because our world is changing. And if you can be that leader in the world, and I want to thank that hand of God, if everywhere you guys go, Everyone you touch, everywhere you go, you leave an imprint. You leave something behind. Thank you, God, that sheds a little bit more light, that somebody can have a different way of living, a different way of being. And if that's not a great way to start changing the world, leading by example, people who know, they take the energy. It's why they go, I want that energy. That's why they go, yes, I want that energy. You know. But if you really want to be that space, that's why you're here tonight. That's why Tom's coming back. What Tom downloaded almost 30 years ago, right? And what I receive messages all the time. We say, thank you, God, a million times a day. Because it comes from the God consciousness. It comes directly from the God consciousness. And neither of us do anything that isn't channeled to told us to do that. Everything. And if you can remember that, you know you're good hands. You're in really good hands. And you know you're going to be okay. No more doubt. Don't listen to people's negativity. Literally. Cast it out. Kaylee's like, yeah, I'll release that and let that go. Thank you, God. No more doubt. And you have to be your biggest champion. If you need a place to go, Tom and I will be your biggest champions. We'll support you. We'll encourage you. We'll keep making sure you know what's happening. Because we're building, like he said, a community like people have never seen. And when you start to see what comes, even go to my community page, you're going to see change. So we can get more people to people just like Tom. Check back, because that's what it is. It's about giving, and it's about constantly serving. So if I can challenge you guys every day when you get up, just say, thank you, God, how can I serve today? How can I make a difference? And start to let people know, you know what? Maybe it's time that you start to look at something new. You don't want to be those stats. Amen. Yeah. Okay, we are going to be out there to say a beautiful hello and a hug. Everybody always knows they love their hugs, especially because I clear your energy. So it takes so long. But, you know, Tom, we're so grateful that you came. We're so grateful. And we know you'll be back.
And again, a hand of applause for Tracy and her crew, what they've done. She has spearheaded this event. We want to do this again. This is our outreach to Toronto. Let's change the world. We'll start right here in Toronto. So God bless you all. Thank you.